Hello and welcome to a slightly squeakier Dan for Stephen University. Still not well. It's the same morning as the last recording. I'm still not good.
Oh, peek behind the curtain, Dan. Don't be giving so much behind the scenes.
Yeah, why not? So yeah, no time has passed for us. Well, 11 minutes have passed for us.
I was going to say, 11 minutes have passed.
So yeah, this week we will be discussing 50 Shades of Grey, which we watched in 11 minutes.
In 11 minutes. It's pretty bad.
It's awful. So we're reviewing that this week instead of Back to the Moon. We're also going to review Bubbled before we get to Back to the Moon, because apparently based on the outro for the last episode. Anyway, let's be succinct this week, Chris. Just for a change of pace. So what was Back to the Moon about?
The entire episode existed for that cliffhanger and for us to find out that Rose shattered Pink Diamond. Next question.
But do you believe it?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that was my theory 11 minutes ago. I think it'd be wrong to
back out now.
Wrong to back out now. No, so the episode, they're slightly facetious, but also slightly true. But I think in a way it's a good thing we've revealed that we're recording this on the same morning. I think that's had an effect. I think the pumped up, this feels like a finale awesomeness of Earthlings. Yeah. And then you get basically they go back to the barn. The rubies are there. They try and get out of the rubies what they want. Eventually, the rubies reveal, after they've picked them off one by one, that they are looking for Jasper.
Which I'm pretty sure they clarified in the original episode they were in. I'm sure that's what they said they were looking for at the time as well. But yeah, sorry, carry on.
I think so.
Didn't mean to interrupt.
No worries. Amethyst pretends to be Jasper. They believe it, and they want to go send a message to at a diamond base to the homeworld to say that Amethyst, because Amethyst pretending to be Jasper, is saying that Jasper's going to stay there with the prisoners. They go to the moon to send this message, and then one of the rubies reveals that Rose is accused of smashing Pink Diamond. Stephen naturally gets upset about that. Amethyst breaks character. The rubies realise, so Stephen opens a door to the outside to space, which he knew was there, and sends them flying out into space. And then, due to a mix-up, Stephen ends up going as well, and we end on Stephen flying out into space, which is undoubtedly an awesome cliffhanger. There's some really funny moments in it, but I think the combination of it really feeling like the episode exists just to kind of tell us that story. Peridot and the cute blue one not going with them, I think is a shame, because I was like, well, the way they beat the last episode is to, it's the gang, they're all together, and they're literally just like, do you guys want to come? Nah, okay. And yeah, and thinking about it, is it in character? Like, Stephen's upset because his mum's just shattered a diamond. Yeah, Stephen's like, I assume he knows the rubies will be able to survive in space, but he's just a bit like, hey, out of space, whatever he says. I don't know if that 100% feels in character. I think it's just a slight bump down from the high of Earthling. Watch the episodes close together.
This is the problem, and I don't think that that's going to be helped by time either. Because the thing is, and this is what I said to you 3 or 4 episodes back, we were like, well, there's only a couple more till the finale, and you asked me a question about, how does the finale work out? Does it? Because your question, the way you phrased it was, does the arc feel complete? And the answer is yes, but mostly because of Earthlings. In the last one when you mentioned, finales, and I was sort of hinting before we got to it, really, I suppose, that like these second 2 episodes, they're not bad episodes, but they're a little misplaced because Earthlings is such a perfect finale. It seems it seems strange you would have these other two tagged on to the end,
It,
except for the fact that I'm sure that when they were written, that wasn't the intention. I just that's the only thing that
especially
keeps coming up is that I'm just sure that they didn't design it this way.
especially when you have Amethyst pretending to be Jasper, so you could, it's this weird thing of like they could push that and they could have the rubies complimenting Jasper and making Amethyst feel worse because she's not Jasper, but you've just so perfectly resolved the Amethyst Jasper stuff. So you either ignore it and then it feels like a missed opportunity, or you make a big deal of it and then it feels like it's going back on the perfect conclusion we've already had. There's no right answer to that except not putting it in a position where you have Amethyst playing Jasper, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's tricky. It's not it's not a bad episode. It's very misplaced, and
Yeah,
I don't
and I
mean
get- and
I
I-
don't mean in the story sense. I just mean like they probably could have used with like opening the season with this one maybe instead.
Yeah, and I feel like we're going to get shouted in the comments, and people are going to be like, "Well, you watched them too closely together." But it would have only been a week apart. I think I still would have, well, or potentially a day apart, depending on how Cartoon Network had aired things. So I still
let's look
think
at
it's
that.
a
I'm going to very quickly check what the difference in release dates were between these two episodes. That'll be
yeah, I
interesting.
do, but yeah, I still feel it. Yeah, I feel
They
like,
aired
and
they
it's a complaint
they aired a day apart. Earthlings was
Well, there you
August
go,
9th. Back to the Moon was August. Sorry, no. Earthlings was August 8th. Back to the Moon was August 9th. And I'm guessing that must mean Bubbled was 10th. But does that mean they did a little mini bomb at the end of the Summer of Steven? Yeah, maybe. Well, we're not doing that. We've got too many bombs to worry about in the future.
Yeah, we've said maybe that was that the nuke,
Yeah, I think this is part of the nuke.
right? Which we've already clarified we're not doing and haven't done.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it was still a great episode, still very entertaining. But like I say, it just feels like a bit of a fall down from the high of Earthling.
When I think I tell you what the problem there is a down from a high is not a problem unless your expectation is for it to go up. And the only time in a TV series your expectations of the scale and importance and quality of the episode is going to go up is towards a finale. Because you don't think that's versus your
Great point.
expectation? Because we talked about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we talked about it in the last episode, didn't we? So we talked about how you said, oh no, they can definitely up the ante here. Because and I think so. I don't think the closeness and the proximity of us watching these together has had any factor on it. Because I still think it would have been an issue. Because ultimately, I think when you're watching a TV show, you expect them to build to these big finale points, and because of the way Cartoon Network have obviously dicked the show about with its season length over the years, it's been very hard for them to actually create coherent season finales since the first season. Everything after that has really felt a bit like, oh, wait, that's the end of the season? They just randomly... And I'll tell you, that doesn't change. In fact, it actually gets even worse on the
I can
gap
imagine,
between season 4 and season 5. We watched the episodes, and then they went, actually, just so you know, that episode you've already seen was the season 4 finale.
Yeah.
So a finale got made the finale post airing. Like,
Yeah,
that's
and that's not the creator's fault. And obviously, don't misunderstand us. We're not criticizing them. We're well aware.
Otherwise, this
potentially...
is a fine episode.
Yeah. It's and it leads, and it's clearly quite a good two-parter. Like, it leads to a really nice cliffhanger. Like I say, I have some trouble. I feel it's slightly out of character for Steven to send them outside. I was also a bit like, when the rubies were leaving and the crystal gems were like, phew, we got away with it. I was already thinking, how are they getting back to Earth? Like, how they don't have a spaceship.
But they visited that station before, because the reason the communicator panel is missing is because Peridot stole it. Do you remember? They had that arc where they went there and it could have been great. That's the moon base they visited to get the communicator that they eventually used.
Okay.
But because Peridot steals the communicator and Steven's all suspicious, they go back to Earth, I think on Lion, I want to say. And Steven locks Peridot in the car, I think, to ask her about the communicator she stole. And in the end, she uses it to tell off Yellow Diamond and call her a clod. Do you remember? So that's actually kind of what I love about this episode, because it's, first of all, we see one more of the murals that we saw the first time, because we saw Yellow Diamond's mural the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when they get to the top, they're like, the communicator's gone. That's so cool because it's just like, yeah, we know because Peridot took it. Like Peridot took it like a season ago. So from that perspective, I thought that was a really neat like. So because this moon base we visited before, so that's why I think, and that's why Stephen knew where the door was. So they have getting back; it wouldn't have been an issue. And Stephen does know gems can breathe in the vacuum of space.
Okay, I'm overthinking that a bit. Then that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think to Peridot and the cute blue one not going?
Yeah, I don't see any reason why they couldn't have gone. I mean, admittedly, it's a lot of voices and a lot of characters to be talking, and they wouldn't have probably had a lot to do. But by very deliberately not bringing them in that sort of, you guys coming? Nah. I don't know, it felt weird and dismissive and not right. It felt like they were very much involved in what was going on. They'd been active participants in capturing and questioning the rubies. So even if they'd only have had one or two lines once they actually got on the ship, there's no reason really not to have them tag along.
Even especially the cute blue one that had literally bubbled them in water, and I just feel like they could have gone in and Garnet. Maybe how funny would it be? So you have Pearl do her grand, oh no, sitting down, and then the cute blue one and Peridot just sit down, really quietly, and it's just like, mm-hmm.
Yeah, would have been great. And also, you even could have done the cool thing when they fused at the end, and it was like, oh god, we got to face this, this giant ruby. How are we going to beat that? Lapis steps forward, who is, as far as I'm concerned, one of the most powerful gems. She is so overpowered in the context of this. What she can do to stand up to it and then go, oh wait, there's no water on the moon, and then just get smushed, not literally, but actually, not win. Because you've essentially you finally put Lapis in a position where she's actually not got a huge amount she can do, because a lot of her power comes from her water control.
And there's no water there. That would have been awesome. And
I'd have been in for that. I'd have been up for that.
And like you said, she's really protective of Steven, so she knows it's dangerous, but she's just like, okay, you guys go to the moon.
You know what it is? Go. It's not that they're missing on the mission. It's not that they needed to go in that sense, but it's just awkward and a bit illogical. They wouldn't. The writers were correct to observe they're not necessary for the rest of this episode to play out, but awkwardly forcing them out feels really jarring. So just have them tag along and be in the background and do very little. That's fine. That would not have. We wouldn't have gone, oh, they didn't get to do a lot. We wouldn't have. That wouldn't have been an issue. No. What is an issue though is the really, because they have found really clever ways to not include them before. That have not felt anywhere near as jarring as that one. That one definitely feels out of place.
It felt really jarring. It felt really out of character.
And quite forced.
It didn't make sense. And it felt like they just wanted it to be the original crystal gems on the mission. And you can't... in the episode before, you have Peridot say, I'm now a crystal gem. So you've done that. You've created a position where the crystal gems includes Peridot and includes cute blue one. So fine, have them on the barn. Don't live in the house. We don't always have to deal with them. Fine, but if they're together, if they're in the action, I think they should have stayed in the action.
Or at least they could have done the Lapis thing again, because what Lapis has proven is that she is not interested in the Rose Quartz war. She's not interested in dealing with Homeworld. She's not interested in any of this. So it would have been more acceptable for Lapis just to go, I'm not part of this anymore. That's the reason I'm here. I've been kidnapped. I've been tortured. I've been, you know what I mean. I've been held prisoner for most of my existence because of both of sides of this war. So I'm staying neutral. I'm staying out of it. You might have got away with explaining Lapis, but Lapis and Peridot, come on.
I still would have gone, but she cares about Steven's safety. But I agree with you. That would have been, the devil's advocate to that is that would take time to do. But I just the simplest option is just have them on the flipping ship,
because literally it doesn't matter. They don't need to do a lot. They just make them present. It's fine. I agree with that criticism. I think that's the only real one. Otherwise, the episode plays out perfectly fine. It's a solid episode on the whole. I think. It's not got any of the emotional weight of the previous one, but the previous one had built up an arc and a story over 5, maybe 6 episodes, I think. And I think that, when you're paying off 5 or 6 episodes worth of build up and story arc and character arc, it's going to feel a lot more weighty than an episode that's sort of dealing with a one-off episode about baseball from half a season ago. Do you know what I mean?
It feels very much like the first part of a two-parter, though, in the way that Mirror Gem, Ocean Gem didn't, and The Returned and Jailbreak didn't. And even actually, the Better and Earthlings didn't. Like, it really, because I think it just momentum-wise, those two-parters, the first episode's a really build, big moment, cliffhanger. Whereas this was a bit like, build, backstory, cliffhanger. Like, there, you know what I mean? There was, yes, yeah, we got a fusion, and yeah, the rubies fused. Maybe if there was a bit more of that fight. Like, I remember when, like, she literally, the ruby pops her head out and goes, do you want to lift back to Earth? Because the stuff before it had made me go, whoa, we nearly at the end of the episode then. So Ruby pops her head out and is like, do you want to lift back to Earth? At 10 minutes something, I think, I'm pretty sure. So maybe just even get to the fight a bit earlier and have a bit more of a fight between Ruby and the fusion, and then you have that awesome cliffhanger. It just, pacing wise,
you're right. Yeah, you called it. It's 10 minutes and 23 seconds. Ruby pops her head back out of an 11-minute and 26 seconds episode, including credits.
So there is not a lot of the fight.
Yeah, that must mean that the fight and the ultimate thingy must have taken place over the course of 30 seconds.
And you just take out some of the... I think the Amethyst builds... The Amethyst losing grip on the... what's it called when she changes it? Shape-shifting. I think that builds enough without... You can just shorten the bit in the ship on the way to the moon, I think.
Did you capture there's a little glimpse of Blue Diamond's mural in the background?
Yeah, I saw a little glimpse, but not too much of it.
I can't remember which ones they showed in the first episode. They visited this moon colony base. I can't remember.
I think you're right. I think it was just pretty much Yellow Diamond.
Yeah.
So were you thinking at this point were you thinking they were going back to that? Were you thinking they were lying about Rose?
Yeah, I was still, and I'm only going to talk from the perspective of how I was at the time, obviously, because obviously anything I say now is obviously informed by future information. But at the time, I was still very much, and by the way, me phrasing it that way does not mean that has somehow changed necessarily. That's just me framing it that way to make sure that you know that it's clear that I'm not speaking for me now. So you don't glean anything from it. But at the time, I was very much. I don't think necessarily that they were lying. I think at this point, once they said it, I was like, okay, so that is probably what Jasper thinks happened, and that is probably what these rubies think has happened. But who's telling them that? Because if it's coming from Homeworld, then it's not trustworthy. Because so many things. And did you see the look on Garnet's and Pearl's face when it came up?
But they, to me, looked scared that Stephen was finding this out.
Yeah, you could absolutely interpret it that way, but there's because maybe even they believe it. I don't know. I'm like my whatever the who believes what at this point. I stood by the notion that I found it really hard to believe Rose Quartz would have shattered someone else. I
think it's gone. Sorry.
No, go on.
I think the reason I think she might have is because, for me, the fact that you don't believe it is why they should do it. Because they've done the Rose is this mystical, great, perfect figure that they've all got to live up to. We've had 3 seasons of that story. Let's have maybe Rose wasn't that great after all. Let's have some of that story. Like that's a new angle that we've not had, and I think that's the reason I'm like. It's not necessarily that maybe it's not necessarily that I even think she did it. It's that I'm going. That's an interesting tale.
Yeah, no, I you're right. It is the more interesting story. It's because of the evidence we had. It seems so unlikely that either she would have killed someone and then turned down a weapon that kills someone, or turn down a weapon that kills someone and then resort to killing someone. I don't know. There were many elements of it that I was just a bit like, really. I've just double checked, by the way. It looks like we've seen Blue Diamond's portrait before.
Okay.
Because what happens is when they visited this moon base first, Peridot sees blues and goes, "Yeah, this is Blue Diamond," and then goes, "Oh, does that mean?" And she runs around looking for yellow because she's obviously Yellow Diamond's quartz. and she shows Steven the yellow diamond
okay.
mural. They don't look at the others, from what I can tell.
Right, okay. So no one really cares about Blue Diamond then. They're just throwing away her references to her, like
Yeah, I suppose.
nobody's business.
Well, but to be fair, I guess we don't know any gems that report to her. Theoretically, if we're following the logic that it's my diamond, our diamond, my diamond, it's all very precious and like that. You think about the way that Peridot used to be regarded yellow diamond. And you assume that for a lot of them. So like I've got to assume that the reason we hear such sort of vehement love or affection or whatever you want to call it, respect for the two diamonds that have been brought up the most, you've got to assume that's because the diamonds we're meeting are not diamonds, sorry, the gems we're meeting are mostly of those two diamonds. Yeah, presumably. So there you go.
So, what did you have any theories? It's a cliffhanger. How do you think they're resolving that? Did you have any theories on that?
Well,
you'd assume with some kind of bubble.
Well, that was it. That was my theory, was that because I knew the next episode was called Bubbled when I saw it, and I don't know if that's because I watched maybe because sometimes what would happen at this point in my watching of the show, just for a little bit of context, during the Stephen Nuke, they were airing so many episodes so frequently, and which by the way, every time I think about that now I get angrier, because I'm just like, if you'd have just paced yourself through that summer, Cartoon Network, you'd have plenty of episodes to be showing us regularly now, you cocks. Anyway, rather than these fucking horrendous hiatuses. Anyway, so during the Stephen Nuke, the summer, it was like we were getting like sort of 4 or 5 episodes a week for like a handful of weeks. It was crazy. It was they called it the summer of Stephen, and they didn't lie. They promised and delivered on that one, if I'm being honest with you, because when they first said summer of Stephen, I think the general consensus was yeah, summer of Stephen, right? 2 episodes maybe in like August. You know what I mean?
Were there people even then saying what you've just said? No, just do it. Just give it to us like a normal show.
Yeah, I mean, even then, yeah, absolutely. But that's the problem, is it's like it's tricky, because it's easier to be angrier about the hiatus than getting a load of episodes. But I definitely saw some people in the comments at the time going, "This is great, and I'm so glad we're getting so much content. But this is going to lead to a very cold winter of nothing." You know what I mean? The summer of Stephen is going to lead to the winter of zilch. And you know what I mean? And I think that winter is now stretched through basically a year and a few months. So it's getting silly now how few episodes we've had since that nuke. So, because keep in mind, Chris, we're getting towards catching up now, right? We've had that conversation. We're sort of couple of months off sort of being caught up. So July, August, we'll be caught up to the show. These episodes we're talking about aired in 2016.
Wow, that's crazy.
That was not that was not summer 2017. That was summer 2016.
Wow.
So
that's nuts.
So when we catch up, I mean, everything from now to when we catch up, which isn't a huge number of episodes, we're talking like 20, 30 episodes from now. No, sorry, it'd be 30 to 40 episodes from now. That's all that's aired in like 2 years. Like, yeah, since summer 2016.
Crazy. That is crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts. It's really nuts what they've done. Anyway, different story. But yeah,
did you have any other notes or thoughts on this?
Just to finish that point, there definitely were people echoing that concern when this went out, the nuke. But I was making a wider point about how we were watching it. So I saw these episodes. I think what was happening was, because they were putting so much content out, me and Nadia were watching them in little batches. Because if I was working late or whatever, we wouldn't get to watch TV every night. So we couldn't watch one a day or anything like that. So what was happening was we'd gather up 3, maybe 4 over a couple of days, and then we'd watch them together. So I'm pretty sure I watched these pretty much back to back. So I already knew what Bubbled was called before I watched it. And my assumption was that it would be that because the rubies can breathe out in space, they'd get sucked away, and then it would be Stephen trapped in a bubble with the gems trying to find him out in the void of space. Yeah,
which is my assumption as well. That's interesting, because you probably as well would have been. That's crazy to think. When you were watching these episodes, we were probably already doing Fringe Observers. So not only could you have not watched TV every night, but you'd have had TV for podcasts to watch as well.
Yeah, definitely. And what's crazy now is we've now recorded more episodes of this show than Fringe Observers.
Yeah.
So weird.
Officially. Any other notes on the ep?
Yeah, there are a couple of little ones that are neat. Actually, there's some neat little references in this one that I didn't necessarily pick up on my first viewing. Originally, by the way, this episode was titled like Back to the Moon Part 3 or something. Like,
okay,
in its early
before.
development, because these episodes all. Yeah, because they obviously it's all one sort of like coherent story, isn't it? All these episodes are led straight into each other. So this was going to be called Back to the Moon Part 3, apparently, very early on, or at least that's what Cartoon Network listed it as on their website for a hot minute, and then they changed it, obviously. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Yeah. An interesting one here. While pretending to be Jasper, Amethyst attempts to explain the discrepancy in her appearance as to being caused by a tan from Earth's sun, which the Rubies gullibly believed immediately. Which, by the way, I can never decide how I feel about the Rubies being as thick as they are in this show. It's like, it's funny and it always leads to good jokes, but I always think like does that like diminish our Ruby and make our Ruby like, does that mean our Ruby's this dumb? Do you know what I mean? I always wonder that.
No, because our Ruby's been through more and grown and been in love, which has, made her like our Ruby is Garnet. Yeah. So
true.
Yeah,
true.
It doesn't worry me.
And also, I love that. What do you call it? They're like, we're not going to get tricked again by any of your brilliant disguises. I'm pretty sure last time their disguises were just to put Lapis in a baseball hat. But anyway,
yeah.
But when Amethyst says it's the tan, which they believe immediately, it's probably a reference to a real life phenomenon which I cannot necessarily pronounce, but tenebrescence. Brescence, I can't pronounce that, which is a thing that really happens in minerals, which results in their hue temporarily or permanently intensifying or changing when exposed to UV light. That being said, neither the amethyst or jasper minerals are known to exhibit this phenomenon in real life. So yes, it is a real thing for a mineral to change its hue in sunlight. But that is actually, weirdly enough, not something either jasper or amethyst minerals do. So I thought that was interesting. Yeah, which means that it's even dumber that the Rubies believe it, I guess.
I think as long as the Rubies' like dumbness or whatever is consistent, I'm fine with it.
That's fair enough. Yeah, that is fair enough.
Yeah.
And our Ruby has never proven herself to be the smartest tool in the shed either. She's never done anything particularly, intelligent. Yeah, she's not as easily tricked or as dummy as these guys, but she's also not like she's never, you know what I mean? Our Ruby has never like done anything particularly outside of anything other than impulse. She's you know what I mean?
Yeah. There's like just angrily walking around the swimming pool and stuff. Like, she was reacting in a way you could imagine these Rubies reacting.
Definitely. Go on.
No, go on. Do you have other triv?
I do.
Before I make my point, yeah, go on.
Cool. Well, Lapis says, "Leggy, come on down." That's apparent. Well, that is not apparently. That is a reference to the line from the game show Price is Right. Come on down, which I thought was pretty cool. When Eyeball talks to Amethyst, thinking she's Jasper, she tells that Jasper popped out of the ground with her helmet on, which is a reference to the Greek myth of the goddess Athena, who was born fully armed from Zeus's forehead.
Of course it is. Yep.
Yeah. One of the Rubies is given the name Doc, which is obviously a reference to the de facto leader of Walt Disney's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, because obviously that final one's gem position isn't noteworthy enough to actually, unless you want to call it Chesty, which I think probably not appropriate for a kid's show.
That would have been a mistake, yep.
Yeah. Which, by the way, just to recap, it's Leggy, Army, Navy, Eyeball, and Doc.
Could you also make the argument that the gem is roughly in the position that the stethoscope would be on a doctor?
Yeah, you could, but I would argue that's more of a stretch than the reference to the Seven Dwarfs. But yeah, also works.
Yeah, that's fair.
Also works. Eyeball says that Jasper is the Facet 9 kindergarten quartz that could, which is a clear reference to the children's book, The Little Engine That Could, which raises the question of, do they get Earth children's books on Homeworld?
That's a very good point. But although I don't think the characters always know the references.
Yeah, you know what? That is true.
I think it's funny.
Yeah, that is true. Eyeball said, no, I've just read that one. Yeah, the rest of this is just stuff we could have put together ourselves.
Alright, cool.
Actually, no.
What?
The one of the little tiny one, which I thought was cool, is obviously this is the first time we've properly seen the physical strain placed upon the body when shapeshifting for an extended period of time. Because Amethyst warned Stephen about it in Stephen's birthday, but his went wrong for different reasons. I think this is... Well, it actually doesn't say first time here. It just says Amethyst displays. So maybe it means this is the first time we've seen Amethyst display that strain. Because Stephen was sweating, wasn't he, in that episode where he was making himself taller?
Yes, yeah.
But yeah,
He's going through all kinds of grief.
Yeah, so yeah, she holds that for. I think that's pretty cool that we finally getting to see that from Amethyst because she's always been so proficient at it. But the idea that she would sort of struggle to hold it is still a pretty neat idea. So there you go.
Yeah, I thought that was neat. I just my final point is I'd love the idea that somewhere in all of this, like maybe when they're on the ship, because we got to remember this is taking place immediately after Earthlings. So like the idea that like they're on the spaceship and it's all kind of silent, and Steven's just like, by the way, guys, the real Jasper's been poofed and bubbled by Amethyst. What? Yeah.
I've got an even better.
How did she defeat him? Well,
Yeah.
We formed a fusion. We called it Smoky Quartz. What the fuck? What?
Yeah, I would have done like, oh guys, me and Amethyst fused. That's how I would have just one sentence, just left it. Yeah, I agree. That would have been great. You've got to assume that they're saving that reveal to the rest of the team.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
Because then at some point they've got to have that conversation.
Yeah, but I didn't know. I didn't assume we'd see it. To be honest, I assumed that would happen.
The way that all these episodes have linked together, you don't think that they might look at that at some point?
Maybe then. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. There we go.
Cool. So that was Back to the Moon.
I'm done.
Yeah, me too. Unless you want to review 50 Shades.
It's not very good. I don't have any more to say on 50 Shades of Grey than I said last week.
It's crap.
It's a bad movie.
It's a bad movie. Bad movies.
Cool.
Bad movies. Why did I see?
There you go.
You yeah. Anyway, that is everything for this week on Stephen University. I've been a still gruff-voiced Dan Doolan.
I've been silky smooth Chris Billingham.
And that's been everything for this week. We'll speak to you next time as we discuss Bubbled. As we actually discuss Bubbled this time.
Mm-hmm.
I meant it. That time I said it with feeling.
Oh yeah, no, we're going to discuss the season 4 opener.
Well, it's technically the last episode of the third season, isn't it?
Yeah, no, that was the joke because we were going to skip an episode like you'd suggested.
Oh, yeah, gotcha.
Here we go, guys. Awkward ending. See you later.
I just got it. Jokes are funnier when they're explained, aren't they?
They are. That's a sign of a really good joke.
Yeah, I think so. If you have to explain it, I think you've done I think the joke is so clever it's gone off people's heads. Then you've nailed it. You've nailed it.
Yeah.
See you next time.
Bye.